I was always that kid who barely took notes in class because I was constantly sleep deprived and I couldn't focus. And even when I did take notes, I couldn't make sense of what I wrote because I wrote like half of what the teacher said and then didn't write the second half and then wrote the next line, so I wouldn't know what I just said. So I would always be in this position where I wouldn't have the notes. But surprisingly, the teacher still gave us the PPTs of the notes, so I just read from that. And even then, I could barely understand what the PPT was about, and I would try to make sense of it and I would somewhat understand, and I would just go back to memorizing it because I couldn't understand it. And there was a method I found very recently while I was doing my final exams like a year ago. No, not very recently, but like final exams a year ago. I graduated now, but then I did my final exams, my board exams. And there was this method I used which made me remember all of my notes literally like instantly. And I would just like learn it like 2, 3, 4 times much faster because of this one method. First of all, I'm glad that you want to study and improve your studying skill. There's a lot of students out there who don't even care about studying, and even if they do, they don't actively search out for information on how to get better at studying. So I'm glad that you're here, leveling up your studying skill and looking for how you can get better. And in this video, I'll teach you exactly a method which I called brain notes. Brain notes is basically taking the exact same notes that you learned from the textbook or from the notebook or the teacher, right? But then writing it in your own words. You always heard from like that phrase, okay, you write your own words in this question and that thing. You can do the exact same thing for the answers. So how do you do this? Whenever you get a note, whenever you read your textbook and everything, right? Let's just say you read this one paragraph. Read it, understand it, and whatever you just understood, like read it once, twice, thrice, 4 times, and then whatever you understood, close the book or keep it aside and then write down what you understood. Right, so for example, let's just say mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, right? That's one thing that you understood. You read that multiple times, okay, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Ask yourself, okay, what does powerhouse mean? Okay, it means like the energy production area of the cell. And mitochondria is like that place for that cell. So I can write, instead of writing mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell in my notebook, instead I'll write, okay, the mitochondria is the place where energy is produced inside the cell. Now, don't you think that's a lot easier? Don't you think that when I did that, that was a lot easier than just writing powerhouse? Because obviously we know that because we've been hearing powerhouse over and over again. It's just an example. So replace that with any paragraph that you learn from social studies or this science, maths and everything. Whatever you know, write down what you understood and then treat that as the notes. Because chances are, if you write that in the exam, they're not gonna like cut out the name unless they look for that specific word like powerhouse. You're technically correct if you say mitochondria is a powerhouse of the cell. It's the same answer, but you understood it much better. And now that you've made your own definition for that word, you'll remember it 5 times faster. You'll by heart it much faster because it's your own definition. You're not taking someone else's definition and trying to memorize it. You just made your own sense from the same exact phrase. So you can do this with anything. I've made a couple of videos about this and I'm emphasizing it again on this video because I feel like this is one of the most effective tactics that people don't talk about. People say, okay, note-taking tactics, use this Notion app and then use this method like the 2-minute rule, flashcards and everything. Those are all useless. In my opinion, if you just follow this and then add those extra stuff in, you will excel. You will beat all of your competition because all of your competition in class and school, they're all just memorizing the phrases and the sentences and everything and writing word by word. And that's much more difficult than if you just understand what it means, right? Imagine you just read this. You and this other guy. This other guy is reading everything, right? This other guy is reading, okay, mitochondria powers of the cell, blah, 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 and he's memorizing the entire thing, the entire paragraph of mitochondria. But what if you just read it 2 or 3 times and then wrote down what you understood? If you understood 80% of it, but then you could write it down in your own words, you would remember it much faster. You would keep it in your brain much faster because it's your own definition. And then when you want to write it in the exam, you'll know exactly what it is. What is mitochondria? What is mitochondria? Mitochondria is powers of the cell because it's the energy production area of the cell. There, you just remembered it. You wrote down what they said, and then you also gave your own explanation because that's what you remember. This is how you can remember 2 times faster. Now you're probably getting ideas on how you can use this. Literally, you can use this on anything. Right? Even in math formulas, you can somewhat say that you could use it. If you don't understand the math formula, ask yourself, why is the math formula like this? What are we trying to get? And then once you ask the why question, then the formula starts making sense. right? Like, okay, if you want to memorize negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a, don't ask me how I memorized that. I'm not even a math student, but essentially, imagine you want to memorize that. Instead of memorizing it, you could do that, but you could also just try to understand why it's like that. It will take you an extra bit of time, but then it will save you the effort of trying to memorize it. Now, a lot of people are really good at memorizing math problems. If you're good at that, then you probably don't need to use it. You can just use it on theory questions and math, science and everything, social studies. Whatever you need to do, just memorize it. If you're learning business, like I was a business student, right? So if you're learning business, instead of memorizing what the principles of management are, you can simply just like understand why that is, and then just start to understand and write your own words. So learn the principles of management and then write down in your own words, okay, what is planning? What is controlling? What is this? What is that? And then you start producing your own definitions. And once you start producing your own definitions, it's like you made the word, and then you'll remember it much faster. So an actionable step is the next time you go to write notes or read your notes, cut them out and then rewrite them in your own words. And now you're learning your own book. And imagine doing this for a really long time, like over and over again. And then in the exam, you'll just write down exactly what you know, and that's the correct definition. And it's not out of memorization, it's about your own understanding. Brain notes. That's what I coined it. No one take it, okay? I coined it. If you do, I'll sue you. So essentially, next time you take a note in class or while you're studying, remember brain notes. Remember, okay, instead of writing down what I see on the textbook or what I see on the PPT, write down what you understood. Like history lesson, instead of writing down exactly what this guy did, imagine you understood it. Imagine you were just studying him. What do you understand? As a scientist, like imagine you were a scientist studying like a microbe. You wouldn't write down the definition of the microbe. You would like learn and study and write down your understanding. Same thing in history. Don't study what the guy is, but like look at him and then, don't like memorize what the guy is, but study him. Study what he's about. Study what you understood about him and write down as if you're observing the guy. And this is how you can remember stuff 2 times faster. If you want extra help, you can just like book a free call with me. It's like the link in the description. I'll leave a link. You can just book a call at any of the dates I'm free. I'll call you and help you out with your problems. If you like this video and you want to see more after I upload, you can just click subscribe right here, or you can watch this video right now. Bye bye.